All right, so now we're on to our last step of creating facial controls and animation controls for our character. So I'm gonna start by creating some controllers on the head control. There's so many different ways to go about doing this. I personally think this is just, as a beginner, for everyone, this is the sort of the most easiest way to do it. Instead of, you'll see a lot of rigs using sliders and an entirely separate animation control set. Typically it's in a box right next to the face or above the face or something like that. Instead of doing that, we're just going to go ahead and do it using the connection editor, and we're going to create some attributes in here. So I only make a requirement of 5. So you can choose any 5 you want, and let's just go ahead and get started. So I'm going to create modify, or wait, hold on, modify add attribute on my head control. In here, I'm going to start with a displayable name. Eyes, or eyebrows in camelback, and minimum can be 0 and maximum can be 0, and add. And now in here I'm also going to go ahead and create L inner L middle and L outer. Then I'm going to create a R inner add, R middle add, and R outer add. So that's all I'm going to do for the eyebrows. It's quite a bit. Like I said, you only have to do 5, but I'm just going to give you a couple ways to do this. You can also combine this using set-driven keys. I'm going to show you one way to do it, and that's all you need to do for the assignment and the project. However, I'll go into a few more complicated things also. So just with the eyebrows, this is 6, and you can do this with the mouth also. I'll do a couple mouth controls too. I'm going to start by duplicating my mesh, and I'm actually going to, before I do that, modify freeze transformations and modify center pivot. Okay, now I'm going to just Control D, duplicate, and drag it over. Now, I don't have the eyes in there, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can use that sculpting tool I showed you earlier when modeling. I'm going to start with L inner. I'm going to press B, turn on my soft select tool, and I don't want it to go too far past the center line. So this is my inner brow, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of drag these a little bit larger. And then I'm just going to go ahead and drag that down. And maybe I want to make it just something. So that's going to be my L inner. And I probably want to keep this one here just where it is. You can do forehead ones too. Maybe I bring this one down a little bit. That'll be L inner. Okay. And then I'm going to rename this L inner brow. Okay. And it might, if it's not enough, go ahead and emphasize it a little bit more. You'll notice you get texture stretching. That's what's going to happen. You're going to get some texture stretching. Okay, and then you can do this just like so, and I'll say that's pretty decent. And then what I'll do is, let me bring this up a little bit. What I'll do from here is I'm going to create another one, select Control D, duplicate it, I'm going to do the left side first, and then I'm going to go ahead, and I can actually, for this, I'll do L inner down, and I can do L inner up. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing on this side, except I'm going to bring it up. And just go ahead and drag that up. Ooh. And that's pretty inset, so maybe I drag that out. And I'll go with that. Now, with that being said, now that I have both of those connected, or not connected yet, I have them created, I'm going to go to Deform, Blendshape, Deform, and then I'm just going to hit the Blendshape, and I'm going to hit the little settings option, and I'm going to create, rename this Facial Expressions, and check topology and create. So now you'll see I have a facial expressions down here, a little facial expressions node, and that's going to control my blend shapes. So now that I have that set, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my L inner brow down, or L inner down, shift select this, and I'm going to do Deform, Blend Shape, and then I can hit the settings box. I could do Specify Node, but I don't need to because I only have one node, and I'm going to keep it under Facial Expressions, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Apply and Close. Now, if I select on my mesh, and I click on my Input Facial Expressions, you should see L inner down, and this will only go, I believe, to 1 by default, and then I can go ahead and bring that down. And that's how I begin to animate the face here. That's one way to do it, and that's totally fine if you create a controller called L inner brow down, you know, connect it using the connection editor. I'll show you how to do that next. Is one way to do it, and that's the easiest way to do this assignment. I'm going to go a step further and show you a more complicated way to do it for anyone that wants to take this a step further. So now that I've created my blend shape node, facial expressions, and added a facial expression blend shape node to it, I can also go ahead and just add this one too for now. Deform, blend shape, add. Okay. What I can do from this point is I need to be able to select this facial expression node, but I can't do it from here. Make this 0. So I need to select here. I need to go to Windows, General Editors, and it should be in the Hypergraph Connections. Now what you'll see is you'll see this little node called Facial Expressions, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And you'll see that my facial expressions are there. It doesn't actually select it when you select it on the node itself when you click on the mesh. You have to select it from the connection editor. Now, with that said, I can do my Windows, General Editor, and Connection Editor. And this is the easiest way to do this assignment, like I had mentioned. So I'm going to reload right, my facial expressions, and I'm going to select here on my head control and reload left. On my head control, I will have L inner, and under weight on my facial expressions node, I'll have L inner down and up. You can only connect one at a time because both of them go to 1, so they're gonna counter react each other, so you can only connect one of these at a time like this. So I'll just connect L inner down, and now you'll notice when I do L inner, it doesn't have a maximum set at 1, so it's going to go infinite, which is kind of weird, but that's just how it is. So now that I've got that connected, I can go ahead and do all 5 blend shapes. I can do smile, frown, you can do this around the mouth, and so on and so forth. But I'm going to show you another step, and we're going to utilize set-driven key and connect this that way. So I'm going to close out of my connection editor for now. I'm going to go to key and set-driven key and set, and now I'm going to load driver as my head control. I'm going to select the facial expressions and load driven. And on L inner, I'm going to do L inner down, and I'm going to key at 0. They're both going to be at 0. Okay, so I'm going to do key. Now I'm going to bring my L inner to -1. And on my node here, facial expressions, I'm going to go to 1, and I'm going to press key. And now on here at -1, it just stops there. Okay, so you see it works. So the goal is now I need to connect my L inner to go up, and the reason I do it this way is just so you don't have a plethora of controls that you can just control it up or down either way. So this is just one way to do it. So on up, I'm going to go ahead and hit key because it's at 0. And then I'm going to bring the head control to 1. And then I'm going to bring my facial expressions blend shape up to 1. And then I'm going to press key. And now I should have this L inner control up and down. See? Okay, and that's how you go about doing that. So you can use the connection editor, or you can use the the set-driven key. So either way works, whichever way is easier for you. The connection editor is definitely an easier way to do it, but this is a way that I like to set up my animation rig. Okay, so now from this point I need to create some more blend shapes. So you basically have enough information up to this point to do this. You can have so many of these. Okay, and once I have them connected, I'm going to do layer, create layer from selected. I'm going to call this Blendshapes and save, and then I'm just going to hide them because it actually does use a lot of your graphics card and processing and things like that when you have so many meshes in a scene that are actually visible. So for everyone that I connect, I'm going to go ahead and hide the ones that I connected already so I don't A, get confused, and B, slow down my system. So this will be L middle down, and this is going to be L middle up. Okay, and on this one, simply going to grab a couple of these, bring it down a little bit, like so. I can bring this one down slightly, as well as this one, save a little bit on the texture stretching. and that seems pretty good. Next one I'm going to do, I'll do L, brow up, go ahead and drag those up, and I'm going to say that's pretty good too. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and select this, shift select the mesh. I'm going to go to Deform, down here Blendshape Add. Same thing with this one. Deform, Blendshape Add. Okay, now I'll go ahead and connect these. And I have it all set, so I need to make sure I select my facial expressions blend shape again, and I need to load driven again so I have the new blend shapes added. Now on L middle, I'm going to do the same thing. L middle down, so L middle I'm going to hit key, and then I'm going to bring the down part, L middle -1, and on my facial expressions, L middle down to 1 and key. And now double check your controller, and you see it works. Now I'm going to do L middle up, and L middle I'm going to do key, and then on the controller +1, and on the facial expressions middle up +1 and key. And now we're gonna just zoom in really quickly just to make sure that they're all working. L middle, down and up. Okay. And I'll do one last one, and then I'll get in. I'll do a facial expression. So grab these, add selected, and now I'm gonna create a couple more. And I always grab from the base mesh itself. I believe you could just continue to duplicate off of these meshes, because what it recognizes each vertice on this mesh is numbered, and that's how it recognizes it. So they'll all have the same number, but just as a precaution, I always select from the base mesh. And the last ones we're gonna do is L outer down and L outer up. Okay. Okay, so here, oh, I want to do this one. Bring this over here. L outer up and down. You can't mirror these, you have to do these individually because they are there are scripts for it, but you would have to find one and know how to import it and things like that, and this is just a safer way to do it. I've used them before and they're usually pretty wonky anyway, so they don't always work the best. So this will be L outer down and L outer up. Okay, something like that. And now select the blend shape, shift select the mesh, deform, blend shape, add. select the next one, deform, Blendshape Add. Okay. Now, in here, I am going to simply go ahead and, on my set-driven key and mesh, on my facial expressions, reload the driven, and I just want to double check L middle. Okay, I set that to the right one. L inner, that's right. And now I'm going to do L outer. Okay, so L outer. Now, I'm going to hit key. They should all be zeroed out. And now L outer on -1 and facial expression L down 1 key. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab my controller and do +1, or actually 0. Then I'm going to do L outer up and key. And then on the controller, +1, and then facial expressions, L outer up, +1, and key. And now that's R outer, whoops, L outer, up and down. And I'm just going to bring it to 0. And check my facial expression. On L outer up, when this is 0, this needs to be 0, and I'm going to key that. And now, it wasn't working right before. Down works, up does not. So on L outer up, I'm going to do this one more time. L outer up. When this is at 1, L outer up is also at 1. And then key. And now I'm going to double check it again. Yep, and it works. Okay. So I've showed you how to connect this using the connection editor as well as the set-driven key. So now that I've got, that's 6 controllers, 6 blend shapes by itself. So if you do it this way, that's totally fine. But I would like you to explore a little bit more and try to do a few extra fun things here. So that's just the eye. I'm going to keep this open so I don't have to re-grab it. I'm just going to drag it off to the side real quick. And now I'm going to do some mouth expressions. So I'm going to drag this back. And here, I'm also going to do modify with my head controller selected. I'm going to start to add some of these extra attributes, even though I may do one for you. We'll call this eyelids, displayable, 0, 0, add. Okay, and then I'll do L lid top and bottom. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Or L lid close, add. R lid close, add. L squint, add. And R squint, add. Okay. And the next thing I will include will be mouth expressions. So mouth expressions, displayable, add, and then I'll do L smile and R smile. Excuse me. So I'm going to skip right to the smile. I'm not going to do the eyelids right now. And I'll create two of these. Control D. Okay, so you don't have to do one for mouth open because we're going to do that using the jaw control. But here we're going to call this L smile, and we'll call this one R smile. And on my L smile, using my vertex, and you can rotate it also. Okay, and you'll see I have a little weird pinching or whatever you want to call it going on in here. So I'll do a, under my modeling tab, mesh tools, sculpting tool, sculpt tool. I'm going to bring the brush size smaller. I'm also going to turn off mirroring or symmetry. I'm going to bring my brush tool a little bit smaller and just start to sort of smooth that out, holding shift. I can also drag these out this way and maybe even back a little bit. Okay, so that's L smile, and now I'll do R smile. And I'm just simply grabbing some of these verts. I'm going to bring it up, rotate it, like so, bring it up and over a little bit, and then mesh tool, sculpting tool, sculpt tool. I'm just going to sort of smooth that out a little bit. Okay, I say that's good enough for this example. So now I select on here. I'm going to use my Windows, General Editor, and Connection Editor. I'm going to reload left because that's the controller, and then scrub down. And I also, before I continue doing this, I'm going to select my L smile, shift select the original mesh, and under, is it rigging or animation? Rigging, Blendshape Add, and then I'm also going to do the same thing here. I'm going to press G this time for last tool used, so now I've got that attached there. And then on my hypergraph connections, facial expressions, blend shape, reload right, under weight, and L smile, I'm going to connect to L smile, and R smile, I'm going to connect to R smile. And now, just drag those off really quickly. I have L smile, and you see it goes on forever, but and then I have R smile. Okay, so that's my blend shape. So now, just because you created your blend shape, don't delete these meshes, because you can always go back and modify them. I'm going to add selected objects. So just as an example, let's go ahead and turn that on real quick. I'm going to select my head controller and do L smile, and I'll do 1. Or, I thought my R smile was a little funky, so R smile, if I go over here and I make any adjustments to this, just to show you, it's going to adjust it on the actual mesh also. And the only way to see it visible is when you have the controller turned on at 1. At least that's the default 100% 1. So, I've created, I guess, 5 altogether fully functional controllers. I have my left smile, my right smile, and then my left inner, middle, and outer eyebrows. And that's really all I've got. I'll do 1 or 2 more. I guess I'll do the eyelids really quickly. Control D, because the eyelids are actually really tricky. So, and close that really quickly. Start with L blank. That's what I should have called it, blink, but what are you gonna do? Then bring this smaller. Okay. And then just these, you might have to do one at a time. Okay. And I'm almost done here. Something like that. The more you take your time with this and place properly, the better results you'll get. Okay, and get some major texture stretching there, but the only way to prevent that is having more geometry, and we created well, as low as possible topology that we could. Alright, and we'll do something like that. The next thing I'll do is I'll select my mesh, shift select, this is L blank, shift select the mesh itself, deform, Blendshape Add. On here, I already have my L lid closed, so I'm going to do bring over my connections here, and I'll do facial expressions, reload right, under weight. I have L blink, but I need to go to L lid close, and then I'll go to L blink. And now L lid close, his eye closes. Alright, so I'll do one more. I'll do the right, R blank, and the squint would just be sort of the lower eyelids coming upwards. I'll bring this off to the side. And then just go ahead and shift all of these down as needed. Ooh. Okay. And I'm just going around and adjusting it accordingly. Okay. And the next one. Okay, and the next one. And the last one. Just trying to grab this other vert. Okay, and maybe bring this in slightly. Okay, and maybe bring these out a little bit because I don't want the eyeballs to sort of poke through. And I know I brought these down slightly. Wasn't sure. I think I already brought them in a little bit. Okay. R blink, shift select the mesh, deform, Blendshape Add, R lid close, R blink, and R lid close. I'm going to close this now. Should, yep, make it work. So that's all I've got for this. I know it can get a little crazy by having the actual what do you say, the not having a limited maximum and minimum limit, but I'm going to cover that in another video in another lab. So make sure you just have 5 different blend shapes added to your facial expressions. Create the controllers on the head. Okay, so these are just some I just threw out there. So I have the eyebrows, the eyelids, and the mouth expressions. So a lot of different ones. You can do some forehead squints, blow the cheeks out, so you know, you kind of like a puffer fish or blowfish or whatever. You can do also lip sync. This is a great way to do lip sync, so that could be under mouth expressions. But we won't cover animating lip sync in 3D here because it's for one, it's extremely difficult for us to set up and everything and make sure it's right, and two, you typically wouldn't use your own rig when learning how to do that. But from this point on, if you do continue animating and animation and 3D modeling and so on and so forth, you will know how the mesh is built. You will understand how the rig works. There are some complicated rigs out there that some you might kind of be like, I don't know how that works so well, but believe me, you'll have an absolute 100% greater understanding of everything in 3D modeling after completing this these blend shapes, and as far as we've gotten so far with the rig itself. This is basically the final stretch on creating the rig. Soon we will be getting into animating it. So thanks for watching. A few things coming up in the future videos. We're gonna clean the rig up even further by adding minimum and maximum limits. We're gonna bind the mesh to the skin, or to the bind the mesh to the skeleton, excuse me. And then we're going to paint weights so that we have a really smooth deformation when animating our character. That's everything I've got for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks for watching.